Hello, I'm back finally with more Twilight Life and Death. I'm on a lot of painkillers at the moment, so I've put on a really thick layer of makeup. Like, my cheeks are actually showing up really rosy on the camera, so it's pretty good. But yeah, sorry if I sound a bit spaced out. And say hello to Felice. Apparently there's a kind of cat in Irish folklore that's a fairy cat or a goblin cat or something, and it's meant to be all black with a little white chest. And well, that's what Felice has. She's not showing you. You're not showing them, are you? No. No. She doesn't know why I'm fucking around with her. It is Guy Fawkes Day today, which is good. The fireworks tonight, so I'll hopefully get all the cats inside before they freak out. Okay, sweetie, I'm sorry. I had my fun. You can go sit down. Okay, so the story so far. Bo and Edith have had a really big talk. And now, you know, the vampire thing is all out in the open. And Bo just loves her and is pretty much willing to do anything for her because, you know, he's dumb. Okay, chapter 10, Interrogations. It was different in the morning. All the things that had seemed possible last night in the dark sounded like bad jokes when the sun was up, even inside my own head. Did that really happen? Did I remember the words right? Had she really said those things to me? Had I really been brave enough to say the things I thought I'd said? Her scarf. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Bo doesn't know how to wear a scarf. And when Edith lent him one, he just wrapped it entirely around his neck like a bandage. I can't get over this detail. It's so good. It's the best thing that's happened in the book so far. Bo's inability to understand a scarf. Her scarf, her brother's stolen scarf, was folded on top of my backpack, and I had to keep walking over to touch it. That part was real, at least. It was foggy and dark outside my window. Absolutely perfect. She had no reason to miss school today. I dressed in layers, remembering I didn't have my jacket, and hoping I wouldn't get soaked all the way through before I could find it again. When I got downstairs, Charlie was gone. I was running later than I'd realized. I swallowed a granola bar in 3 bites, chased it down with milk straight from the carton, ew, and then hurried out the door. Hopefully the rain would hold off until I saw Jeremy. Hopefully my jacket was still in his car. You need more than one jacket, Beaufort. I'm sorry, everybody. I mean, if you actually cannot afford to have more than one jacket, then obviously. But if you can, you should always have a backup jacket. I have backup everything. So that's why my purse is so heavy and I have sciatica or whatever. But, you know, you take an extra scarf, a pair of tights or whatever. Sorry. God, I'm still on just one page. I'm really sorry. I'm like doolally. It's all good. It was really foggy. The air looked like it was filled with smoke. The mist was ice cold where it touched my face. I couldn't wait to get the heat going in my truck. It was such a thick fog that I was a few feet down the driveway before I realized there was another car in it. A familiar silver car. My heart did the weird double thump thing, and I hoped I wasn't developing some kind of aortic issue. The passenger window was down, and she was leaning toward me, trying not to laugh at my "I might be having a heart attack" face. "Would you like a ride to school?" she asked. Though she was smiling, there was uncertainty in her voice. She didn't mean this to be a no-brainer for me. She really wanted me to think about what I was doing. Maybe she even wanted me to say no. But that wasn't gonna happen. "Yeah, thanks," I said, trying to sound casual. As I ducked into the warm car, I'm imagining him just like putting his arms out in front of him and supermaning himself straight into the car, just whoosh, cash. But it doesn't say that. But you're allowed to use your mind to make things fun, if you can. Excuse me. The refreshing, addictive, and unpleasant taste of Diet Coca-Cola. Why do I like it so much? I'm sorry. As I ducked into the warm car, I noticed a light tan jacket slung over the headrest of the passenger seat. What's this? Royal's jacket. I don't want you to catch a cold or something. Edith? You have 2 medical degrees. You know that being cold doesn't give you a cold. Although, as I said before, it's possible that while Edward Cullen has 2 medical degrees, which he does, you can look it up, Edith might not because of, you know, sexism in history. I don't know yet. I set the jacket carefully on the back seat. She didn't seem to mind borrowing her brother's stuff, but who knew how they felt about it? One of the confused images I remembered from the car accident, however many weeks ago it was now, was the faces of her siblings watching from a distance. The word that had best summed up Royal's face was fury. Royal is, of course, Rosalie, the bitchiest and most amazing vampire. She gets a little bit of backstory in Breaking Dawn. And you find out she became a vampire when her fiancé and his friends all assaulted her, which is of course awful, and left her for dead. And then she came back for them one by one in her blood-stained wedding dress, and saving the fiancé for last, which was... it was magnificent. Just lovely. I might have a hard time being afraid of Edith, but I didn't think I'd have the same problem with Royal. I pulled the scarf from my bag and laid it on top of the jacket. I'm good, I told her, and thumped my fist against my chest twice. Immune system in top form. She laughed, but I wasn't sure if it was because she thought I was funny or ridiculous. Oh well, just as long as I got to hear her laugh. You may notice I'm sitting with the book very close to me, kind of hunched up. It's because Felice is... she's sitting right where I want the book to be. Oh, look at that, Lacey Gill. That's your bottom on YouTube. She's so smart. I think she's mad at me because she somehow understands that I'm making fun of her to an audience. My hair is not exactly parted. God, that's driving me insane. I really like when we can hang out like this. God, I'm lonely. Okay. She drove through the foggy streets, always too fast, barely looking at the road. She wasn't wearing a jacket either, just a pale lavender sweater. Oh my god. With the sleeves pushed up. No, I haven't pushed my sleeves up because, you know what, it makes them loose and baggy permanently. And I won't have it. The sweater hugged her body and I tried not to stare. Her hair was wound up into a twist on the back of her head, messy with strands falling out everywhere, and the way it exposed the slender column of her neck was also distracting. I wanted to brush my fingertips down the length of her throat. This is the sauciest it's ever been. Page 151. But I had to be more careful, like she'd warned me last night. I wasn't entirely sure what she meant. She's a vampire. She's a vampire. I wasn't entirely sure what she meant, but I would do my best, because it was something she obviously needed from me. I wouldn't do anything that would scare her away. What, no 20 questions today? She asked me. Was that annoying last night? Oh, you were trying to work out, you know, what kind of vampire she is. I think it was pretty necessary. Not annoying, just confusing. I was surprised you felt that way. It seemed like I was the one in the dark. What does that mean? Your reactions, I don't understand them. My reactions? Oh god, if you took out all the times that he just repeats what the last, you know, person said to him. If you took out all the words, this book would be quite good. You could draw pictures on it. You could tear off the pages and crumple them and throw them at cats or whatever. You could use it to mop up spills. She glanced at me, raising an eyebrow. I can only raise two. Yes, but when someone tells you they drink blood, you're supposed to get upset. Make a cross with your fingers, throw holy water, run away screaming, that sort of thing. Oh, I'll do better next time. By all means, please work on your expressions of horror. Horror isn't exactly how I'd describe last night. Yes, he doesn't know that's not a normal date. Although maybe it is. She exhaled through her nose, irritated. Like that. I don't know what to say. Nothing could make me see her as something to run away from. So, where's the rest of your family? I actually didn't want to think about her family. I don't want to deal with the idea of more vampires. Vampires who weren't Edith. Vampires who might inspire real horror. But the fact was that usually her car was full, and today it wasn't. Of course I was grateful. It was hard to imagine something that would keep me out of a car when Edith invited me in, but a bunch of furious vampires in the back seat might complicate things. I like that. A bunch of furious vampires. As a phrase, I just like it. Oh, jeez. She was just pulling into the school parking lot. Already. They took Royal's car. She gestured to it. A glossy red convertible with the top up as she swerved into the spot next to it. Ostentatious, isn't it? If he's got that, why does he ride with you? Like I said, it's ostentatious. We try to blend in. I laughed as I opened the car door. Ha 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 ha. No offense, but you're totally failing there. She rolled her eyes. I roll my eyes a lot when Bo says stuff, so. I wasn't late anymore. Her lunatic driving had gotten us to school with time to spare. Why did Royal drive today if it's more conspicuous? My fault. As usual, Royal would say. Haven't you noticed, Bo? I'm breaking all the rules now. Oh my god. That's right. She's a vampire dating a human being, 100-year-old pedo dating a teenage boy, and ignoring the family's strict carpool policy. Wow, love makes you do crazy things. She met me at the front of the car, staying very close to my side as we walked onto campus. I wanted to close that little distance, to reach out and touch her hand again, to put my arm around her shoulders, but I was afraid that wouldn't be careful enough for her. Why do you even have cars like that? I wondered aloud. If you're looking for privacy, there are plenty of used Hondas available. It's an indulgence, she admitted with a little half smile. We all like to drive fast. Of course, I muttered. Under the shelter of the cafeteria roof's overhang, Jeremy was waiting with his eyes popping out again. Over his arm was my jacket. Hey, Jer, I called when we were a few feet away. Thanks for bringing that. He handed me the jacket without speaking. Good morning, Jeremy, Edith said politely. I could tell she wasn't trying to overwhelm him, but even her smallest smile was hard to take in stride. That's a small smile. That's an even smaller smile. That's probably the smallest smile I can do. Hi. Jeremy shifted his wide eyes to me, trying to reorder his scrambled brains. Guess I'll see you in Trig. Yeah, see you then. He walked away, pausing to glance back at us twice. What are you going to tell him? She murmured. Huh? I looked at her, then at Jeremy's bag. Oh, what's he thinking? Her mouth pulled to one side. I don't know if it's entirely ethical for me to tell you that. Ethical? What's not ethical is for you to hoard your unfair advantages to yourself. For yourself. She grinned a mischievous smile. He wants to know if we're secretly dating, and exactly which base you've gotten to with me. All the bases have been dunked on and scored tries over and hit for 6 around every base. There's like 9 of them. Takes a while. The blood rushed to my face so fast I was sure it was beet red before a full second had passed. You sure it was your face, Beaufort? I'm sorry. I'm trying to make my own entertainment with this. She looked away, her face suddenly as uncomfortable as mine felt. She took a small step away from me and gritted her teeth. It took me a minute to realize that the flush that embarrassed me so much was probably something else entirely to her. She wants to bite your face and suck out all your face blood. Gross. Amazing. Do that. Like rip right into his cheek. Amazing. That helped cool me down. What should I say? She started walking and I followed, not paying attention to where she was leading. After a second, she looked up at me, her face relaxed and smiling again. It's a good question. Can't wait to hear what you come up with. Edith. She grinned, and then her little hand shot up and brushed a piece of hair off my forehead. Just as quickly, her hand was back at her side. My heart spluttered like it was in actual distress. See you at lunch, she said, brandishing the dimples. I stood there like I'd been tasered while she pivoted and walked off in the other direction. I don't think tasering makes you stand really still like a statue. I could be wrong. I'm not wrong. It's silly. After a second, I recovered enough to see that I was standing right outside the English classroom. 3 people had paused by the doorway, staring at me with varying shades of surprise and awe. I ducked my head and brushed past them into the room. Was Jeremy really going to ask me that? Would Edith really be eavesdropping on my reaction? Morning, Beau. Michaela was already in her normal seat. Her greeting wasn't as enthusiastic as I was used to. She was smiling, but it felt like a polite thing, not like she was really happy to see me. Hey, Michaela. How are things? Good. How was the movie last night? She knows you didn't go to that fucking movie. She knows. Oh, right, yeah. I didn't actually see it. I got lost and... Yeah, I heard, she said. I blinked, startled. How? I saw Jeremy before school. Oh. He said you didn't miss much. The movie was lame. That's good, I guess. She was suddenly really interested in her fingernails. She started chipping the purple paint off one. Did you have, like, plans before you went? I mean, Jeremy thought you might have, and I wondered, why even go through the charade, you know? Ooh, Michaela. No, I was totally planning on the movie. I didn't expect that I would get lost and stuff. Have an interview with a vampire. He doesn't say that. Michaela sniffed once like she didn't believe me, and then looked up at the clock. Ms. Mason was working on something at her desk and didn't seem in a hurry to start class. That was really cool that you went out with Jeremy on Monday, I said, changing the subject. He said it was great. Oh, I was sure he would have if I'd asked about it. She looked at her nails again, but her ears started to turn a little pink. He did? she asked in a completely different tone. Yeah, I dropped my voice to a whisper. Remember, I didn't tell you anything. Like, I totally didn't tell you that he thinks you're the coolest girl he's ever known. Her ears were even pinker now. Man code. Right. I said nothing. She finally smiled a real smile. Wow. Golly, Michaela, you're just the coolest gal I've ever known. People say that? I don't know. I don't remember much of high school, to be honest. Ms. Mason got up then and asked us to open our books. Ow, Phyllis. Ow. I thought maybe I was off the hook with Michaela, but when class was over I saw her and Erica exchange a look, and then Michaela was picking her nails again while we walked outside. So, she said. Yeah? I was curious if, we were going to see you at the dance after all. Like, you could totally hang with our group if you wanted to. The dance? I looked at her blankly. No. No, I'm still going to Seattle. You dummy, Bo. She seemed surprised, but then she relaxed. Okay. Oh well. Maybe we can get a group thing together for prom. Share a limo. I stopped walking. I really wasn't planning on prom. Really? Shocking. Michaela laughed. Like a bitch. You might want to mention it to Taylor, though. She says you're taking her. I felt my jaw fall open. Michaela cracked up. That's what I thought, she said. Are you serious? I demanded when I had control of my face again. I mean, she was probably joking. Logan and Jeremy were talking about getting started early and putting together a big thing for prom, and then Taylor said she was out because she already had plans with you. That's why Logan's being so, about you. He has a thing for Taylor. I figure you deserved a heads up. After all, you broke the man code for me. What am I supposed to do? Tell her you're not taking her. I can't just... What would I even say? She smiled like she was enjoying this. Man up, Bo. Or into tux. Your choice. Oh, poor Bo. But Michaela taking so much glee in Taylor being in the same position that she is, basically. Why does everyone want to go out with this dude? He's so boring and he doesn't understand stuff and he doesn't know how to put a scarf on. I mean, maybe since we can see inside Bo's head, we realize how, boring and stupid he is. But other people, they think he's cool. And when he's quiet, it's not because he's thinking stupid thoughts, it's because he's thinking something cool. That could be it. Who knows? So I didn't get much out of government after that, which is apparently a class. Was it really my responsibility to uninvite Taylor to the prom? I tried to remember what I'd said to her in the parking lot when she'd asked me to the girl's choice. I was almost positive I had not agreed to anything. I think you did, Bo. Can't remember. The sky was like lead as I walked to Trig, dark grey and kind of heavy looking. Why is trigonometry its own class? When I was at school, it was just in maths. Actually, no, because I stopped maths after 5th form, and then it turned into, calculus and statistics. But I don't think trigonometry was its own class. But it appears to be in American media, so... I can't even remember what it is. It's like triangles. You have a class about drawing triangles. Although I do think having a class about how the government works would be really useful for Kiwis. I can't remember actually covering that, apart from during the 1996 election, when I was 11, and it was at primary school. I think they changed it from first past the post to MMA. Yeah, MMP, something member parliament, not mixed martial arts, although that would have been amazing. I'm really sorry, that was the most boring derail I've ever done. I'm just like, everything still aches quite a lot, but I'm also really spacey. It's not even making Twilight very interesting. Oh my god. Okay, so anyway, Bo's going to his trigonometry class where he's going to draw triangles or something. I don't know. You can tell me, you can talk to me on Twitter and tell me what it's about, or not is also fine. The sky was like lead as I walked to Trig, dark grey and kind of heavy looking. Last week I would have found it depressing. Today I smiled. There was something better than sunshine. And he's happy because dark days mean that Edith can come to school because she sparkles and everything. He doesn't know she sparkles yet, just that she doesn't come to school in the sunny days. When I saw Jeremy sitting by an empty desk in the back row, watching the door, waiting for me, I remembered that Taylor wasn't the only problem I had right now. My neck started feeling warm, and I wished I'd kept the scarf. Bo's neck is mentioned a lot. I know I've brought this up before, but Bo's neck and its temperature and colour are described a lot more often than even Edith's hair or whatever other stupid detail. There was another open chair 2 rows forward, but it was probably better to get this over with and be done with it. Ugh, gossip. Everyone hates gossiping. Ms. Varner wasn't in the room yet. What was with all the tardy teachers today? It was like nobody even cared if we were educated. I sat next to Jeremy. He didn't keep me waiting. Dang, son, he said. Which I would pay money to hear Stephanie Meyer say. No, I wouldn't. I'd pay money to be assured that I would never have to hear her say that. Not a lot of money. I don't care that much. Anyway, Jeremy apparently said, dang, son. Who knew you had that kind of game? I rolled my eyes. I have no game. True. Please. He punched my arm. Edith Cullen. Come on, how did you swing that? I didn't do anything. How long has this been happening? Is this some kind of secret? Like she doesn't want her family to know? Is that why you pretended you were going to the movie with us? I wasn't pretending anything. I had no idea she was in Port Angeles last night. She was the last person I expected to see. I don't know why, but Bo's voice always sounds a little bit more girlish and whiny to me than any other voice in the whole book. I don't mean that girlish and whiny are the same thing. They're two different things, and having a girlish voice is not bad. Oh, God. I'm okay. I'm good. He seemed deflated by my obvious honesty. Have you ever been out with her before last night? Never. Huh. Just a total coincidence. I guess. It was obvious when I was telling the truth, and obvious when I was evading it. The suspicious, knowing look came back to his face. Because, you know, it's not a secret that you've been, like, obsessed with her since you got here. I winced. It's not. So I have to wonder how you turn that around. Do you have a genie in a lamp? Did you find some blackmail on her? Or did you trade your soul to the devil or something? Whatever, man. Teen speak. Exactly how much did you get in the bargain? Bet it was a pretty wild night, eh? I was starting to get pissed, but I knew he would twist whatever reaction I showed to make it seem like something else. I answered calmly, it was an early night. Home by 8. Are you serious? It was just dinner and a ride home, Jeremy. What about this morning, though? You were still with her. Still? No, what? You thought she was with me all night? But she wasn't? No. But you were in her car. Sometimes I hide in her car. It's just a thing. No, he doesn't say that. He says she picked me up for school this morning. Why? I have no idea. She offered me a ride and I wasn't going to say no. And that's it? I shrugged. Really? Please tell me you at least made out with her. Anything. I don't remember talking like this in high school. Actually, I remember talking a lot about the Matrix and not much about interpersonal relationships because we didn't really have any. Because we were huge dorks. God, pages and pages of banal dialogue. I scowled at him. It's not like that. He made a disgusted face. That is, hands down, the most disappointing story I've ever heard in my entire life. I take back everything I said about your game. Obviously, it's just some kind of pity thing. Yeah, probably. Maybe I should try to look more pathetic, if that's what Edith's into. Go for it. Won't take her long to get bored with you, I bet. Ooh! My facade slipped for a second. He caught the change and grinned, a little smug. Yeah, I said. Sure you're right. Ms. Varner showed up then, and the general chatter started to die down while she began writing equations across the board. You know what, though, Jeremy said under his breath. I think I'd rather be with a normal girl. Bitch. That's so mean. I was already irritated. I didn't like the way he talked about Edith in general, and the way he said normal really bugged me. No, Edith wasn't normal, but that wasn't because, like his tone seemed to imply, she was something off or wrong. She was beyond normal, above it, surpassing it by so much that normal and Edith weren't even on the same plane of existence. It's probably for the best, I muttered in a hard voice. Keep your expectations low. Does he mean his expectations of Edith being interesting, or of Jeremy ending up with anybody interesting, or I don't care. I don't care. He shot me a startled look, probably wondering exactly what he meant. But I turned to face the teacher. I could feel him staring at me suspiciously again, until Ms. Varner noticed and called on him for an answer. He started flipping spastically through his book, trying to figure out what she'd asked him. Okay, we don't use that word anymore. Yeah, a little bit embarrassed that it's even in here, to be honest. Excuse me. Not cool. Jeremy walked ahead of me on the way to Spanish, but I didn't care. I was still annoyed. He didn't talk to me again until the end of class when I started shoving my books, a little too enthusiastically, into my backpack. What the hell does that mean? Is he like making his books fuck the backpack or something? I don't know. You're not sitting with us at lunch today, are you? His face was suspicious again, and more guarded now. Obviously, he thought I'd be eager to show off, to sell Edith out to make myself look cooler. After all, Jeremy and I had been friends for a little while. Guys told each other this kind of stuff. It was probably part of the man code thing I'd invented. He'd assumed my loyalty would be with him, but now he knew he was wrong. What the fuck is even going on? Honestly. Not sure, I said. No point in being overconfident. I remembered too clearly what it felt like whenever she disappeared. I didn't want to jinx myself. He walked off without waiting for me. But then he did a little stutter step and paused on the threshold of the classroom. Seriously, what the hell? Jeremy said, loud enough that I could hear him, as did everyone else within a 10-foot radius. I don't know what Jeremy can see. It's on the next page. Here we go. We're going to go on to the next page in a second. Here we go. He glanced back at me, shook his head, and then stalked away. I was in a hurry to get out the door, to see what that was about, but so was everyone else. One by one, they all stopped to look back at me before exiting. By the time I got out, I don't know what to expect. Irrationally, I was half expecting to see Taylor in a sparkly prom dress and tiara. But outside the door to my Spanish class, leaning against the wall, looking 1,000 times more beautiful than anyone had a right to, Edith was waiting for me. Her wide gold eyes looked amused, and the corners of her lips were right on the point of smiling. Her hair was still coiled up in that messy twist, and I had the oddest urge to reach down and pull the pins out of it. Hello, Bo. Hi. Part of me was aware we had an audience, but I was past caring. Hungry? She asked. Sure. Actually, I had no idea if I was. My whole body felt like it was being electrocuted in a strange and very pleasant way. My nerves couldn't process more than that. It's just sort of adorable and really annoying. Oh my god, this chapter's so long. I'm not looking at any of the words, I'm just flicking. She turned toward the cafeteria, swinging her bag into place. Hey, let me get that for you, I offered. She looked up at me with doe eyes. Does it look too heavy for me? Remember the van? Shouldn't say that bit. Well, I mean... Sure, she said. She slid the bag down her arm and then held it out to me, very deliberately using just the tip of her pinky finger. Thanks, I said, and she let the strap fall into my hand. I guess I should have known it would be twice as heavy as my own. I caught at it before it could hit the sidewalk, then hefted it over my free shoulder. Do you always bring your own cinder blocks to school? She laughed. Archie asked me to grab a few things for him this morning. Is Archie your favourite brother? She looked at me. It's not nice to have favourites. Only child, I said. I'm everyone's favourite. Yeah, by default. It shows. Anyway, why do you think that? Seems like you talk about him most easily. She thought about that for a moment, but didn't comment. Once we were in the cafeteria, I followed her to the food line. I couldn't help staring at the back of the cafeteria the way I did every day. Her family was all present and accounted for, paying attention only to each other. They either didn't notice Edith with me, or they didn't care. I thought about the idea Jeremy had come up with, that Edith and I were seeing each other in secret to keep it from her family's notice. It didn't look like she was hiding anything from them, but I couldn't help but wonder what they thought about me. I wondered what I thought about them. Just then Archie looked up and smiled across the room at me. Automatically, I smiled back, then glanced down to see if he'd actually meant the smile for Edith. She was aware of him, but she wasn't responding in kind. She looked sort of angry. My eyes cut back and forth between the two of them as they had some kind of silent conversation. First, Archie smiled wider, showing off teeth so white they were bright even across the length of the room. Edith raised her eyebrows in a sort of challenge. Her upper lip curling back just a tiny bit. He rolled his eyes to the ceiling and held his hands up like he was saying, I surrender. Edith turned her back to him and moved forward in the line. She grabbed a tray and started loading it up. I'm pretty close with all my family, but Archie and I do have the most in common, she said, finally answering my question in a low voice. I had to duck my head down to hear her. Some days he's really annoying, though. I glanced back at him. He was laughing now. Though he wasn't looking at us, I thought he might be laughing at her. I was paying so much attention to this little exchange that I didn't notice what she had on the tray till the lunch lady was ringing us up. That'll be 24.33, she said. What? I looked down at the tray and then did a double take. Edith was already paying. Oh man, we had the best hot chocolate when I was at high school. I really miss that. It was like $1 for a cup of hot chocolate and it was so nice. I've never been able to replicate it. I think it's quite similar to the one you can get from McDonald's that's not McCafe. Just normal McDonald's in the mornings. I'm just imagining having 24 of them. Anyway, Edith was already paying and then gliding off toward the table where we'd sat together last week. Hey, I hissed, jogging a few steps to catch up with her. I can't eat all of that. Half is for me, of course. She sat down and pushed the overflowing tray to the centre of the table. I raised my eyebrows. Really? Take whatever you want. I sank into the seat across from her, letting the dead weight of her bag slide to the floor with mine. At the other end of the long table, a group of seniors watched her with wide eyes. I'm curious. What would you do if someone dared you to eat food? You're always curious. She made a face, then daintily tore the tip off a piece of pizza, popped it in her mouth, and started chewing with a martyred expression. After a second, she swallowed, then gave me a superior look. If someone dared you to eat dirt, you could, couldn't you? She asked. I grinned at her. I did once, on a dare. It wasn't so bad. I ate a bit of cat food once. Not wet cat food, but the little dry crunchy bickies. Because the cats seemed to really like them. But I was 6, so it doesn't really count. And I didn't like them. Although one of Dad's friends did once eat a bag of dog treats. He thought they were biscuits. I don't know, I don't have the story quite right. Maybe dog treats are just nicer. I don't know. Somehow I'm not surprised. Here. She shoved the rest of the pizza to me. I took a bite. I wondered if it really tasted like dirt to her. It wasn't the best pizza I'd ever had, but it was decent. While I was chewing, she glanced over my shoulder and laughed. I swallowed quickly. What? You got Jeremy so confused. Tough. He really let his mind run wild when he saw you get out of my car. I shrugged and took another bite. She tilted her head to the side. Do you truly agree with him? I had to swallow fast again and I almost choked. Sounds a little bit saucy, but not really. She half rose, but I held my hand up and recovered. I'm fine. Agree with him about what? Why I'm here with you. It took me a minute to think through the conversation. I remembered things I hoped she hadn't been paying attention to, like the fact that apparently everyone knew I'd been obsessed with her from day one. I'm not sure what you mean. She frowned. Obviously it's just some petty thing, she quoted. I was surprised that she looked so irritated. It's as good an explanation as any. And I'll be getting bored soon, will I? That one stung a little. This was my biggest fear. It seemed all too likely. But I tried to hide it with another shrug. Bo, you're being ridiculous again. Am I? Or am I just being 17 years old? He doesn't say that. I just sort of can't really get over how gross it is. I have a cousin who's 17. Or 18 or whatever. And he's a lovely boy. But, you know, a kid. A nice boy. He's a really good boy, actually. He does the theatre society and mows Nana's lawn and got a lot of time for that cousin. A good boy. But ew, imagine dating a 17-year-old. Ew. I just have my own personal theory that, you know, when you become a vampire, your sort of mind and emotional state is fossilized at that particular stage of development. Because otherwise it is really freaky. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. She smiled a funny half smile, half frown. It won't look like that. I don't know what it will look like doing that. There are several things I am currently worried about. Boredom is not one of them. You're the only one, Edith. You're the only one who's come into contact with this book, even secondhand through YouTube, who is not worrying that the boredom of this book will literally take years off their life. She cocked her head to the side, her eyes drilling into mine. Don't you believe me? Sure, I guess, if you say so. Her eyes narrowed. Well, that was an overwhelming affirmative. I took another bite of pizza. Wow, we are just going to get talked all the way through this slice of pizza. Chewing slowly and deliberately this time. She waited, watching me with the intense little scowl that I knew meant she was trying to get inside my head. When I took a second bite without speaking, she blew an angry breath out her nose. What? I truly loathe it when you do that. I took a second to swallow. God, he's bite, chew, swallow. That's what my nana said to my dad and my auntie and uncle when they were little, you know. Hurry up and eat, bite, chew, swallow, bite, chew, swallow. But you don't have to describe it all, Stephanie Meyer. Like, you have to do it as a human being to eat food, but it doesn't have to happen on screen, on the page. We can infer from the fact that Bo doesn't choke and died that he successfully swallowed his bite of pizza. Oh God, someone save me. I'm good. I'm back into it. I truly loathe it when you do that. I took a second to swallow. What, not tell you every single stupid thought that passes through my head? I could tell she wanted to smile, but she didn't give in. Precisely. I don't know what to say. Do I think you'll get bored with me? Yeah, I do. I honestly don't know why you're still here. But I was trying not to say that out loud, because I didn't want to point something out that you might not have thought of yet. The smile escaped. So very true. I never would have realized it myself, but now that you mention it, I really ought to be moving along. That Jeremy suddenly seems alluringly pathetic. And then she cut off and the smile vanished. Bo, you know that I'm joking. I wondered what my face was doing. I nodded. Yeah. Her forehead creased. After a second, she hesitantly stretched her arm across the table toward me, leaving her hand in easy reach. I covered it with mine. Page 162, we've got some more hand-holding. She smiled, but then she winced. Sorry, I said, pulling away. No, she objected, it's not you. Here. As carefully as if my hand were blown from the thinnest glass, she rested her fingers on my palm. Copying her caution, I folded my hand gently around them. What was wrong just now? I half whispered. I don't know, Bo, maybe you're shitty at holding hands. Like, maybe you have somehow fucked up holding hands. Can happen. To Bo. Many different reactions. Her forehead wrinkled again. Royal has a particularly strident mental voice. I couldn't help it. I automatically glanced across the room, and then was very sorry I had. Royal was glaring daggers at Edith's unprotected back, and Eleanor, across from him, was turned around to glower at Edith too. When I looked, Royal shifted his furious eyes to me. My eyes darted to Edith, the hair standing up on the back of my arms, but she was glaring back at Royal now, her upper lip pulled back off her teeth in a menacing scowl. To my surprise, Eleanor turned around at once, and Royal dropped his threatening stare. He looked down at the table with a suddenly sulky expression. Archie looked like he was enjoying it all hugely. Jessamine never turned. Did I just piss off? I swallowed before I could finish. Bunch of No, she said fiercely, then sighed. But I did. I glanced at Royal again for a fraction of a second. He hadn't moved. Look, are you in trouble because of me? What can I do? The memory of his livid eyes trained on her small body had a wave of panic rolling through me. She shook her head and smiled. You don't need to worry about me, she reassured me, a little smug. I'm not saying that Royal couldn't take me in a fair fight, but I am saying I never have fought fair, and I don't intend to start now. He knows better than to try anything with me. Edith, she laughed. I joke. It's really nothing, though. Normal sibling issues. An only child couldn't understand. If you say so. I do. Wow, she can tell him anything and he'll believe it. I looked at our hands, still folded so very carefully together. It was the first time I'd really held her hand, but wrapped up in the wonder of that was the memory of why she'd offered it to me in the first place. Back to what you were thinking, she said, as if she could read my thoughts. I sighed. Would it help if you knew you weren't the only one who had been accused of obsession? I groaned. You heard that too. Great, she laughed. I was entranced from start to finish. Sorry, I said. Why are you apologizing? It makes me feel better to know I'm not the only one. I stared at her, skeptical. Let me put it this way. She pursed her lips thoughtfully. Though you are the one person I can't be sure about, I'd still be willing to place a very large wager that I spend more time thinking about you than you do about me. Yeah, well, she doesn't sleep, so that's cheating. Ha! I laughed, startled. You would totally lose that bet. She raised an eyebrow and then spoke so low that I had to lean in to hear. Ah, but you're only conscious for roughly 16 hours in any given 24-hour period. That gives me quite a lead, don't you think? She's cheating. You're not factoring in dreams, though. She sighed. Do nightmares count as dreams? Red started creeping up my neck. When I dream about you, it's definitely not a nightmare. I mean, it's sweet. It's very romantic, but of course, it's also extremely funny. Her mouth opened just a tiny bit in surprise, and her face was suddenly vulnerable. Really? She asked. 17-year-old idiot Bo bloody Swan is having wet dreams about me. I couldn't be happier in all my 100 years of life, seeing everything from World War One through the Roaring Twenties, Civil Rights Movement of the 60s, whatever the fuck went down in the 70s, no one's quite sure. Nothing has been as amazing as this one high school boy saying that every single night he totally has sex dreams about me. That's all in there. That's in the book. It's written down. God, my head is killing me. Not literally. Hey, sweetie. Hey. She's still here. It was obvious that she was pleased, so I said, every single night. That's beautiful. She closed her eyes for just a minute, but when she opened them, her smile was teasing again. REM cycles are the shortest of all the sleep stages. I'm still hours ahead. I frowned. It was difficult to process. You really think about me? Why is that hard for you to believe? Look at me, I said, unnecessarily, as she already was. I'm absolutely ordinary. I mean, except for the bad things like all the near-death experiences and being so uncoordinated that I can barely walk. And look at you. I waved my free hand toward her in all her unsettling perfection. She smiled a slow smile. It started out small, but ended with the full array of dimples, like the grand finale at the end of a fireworks show on the 4th of July. Fuck's sake, this is poorly written. I mean, it's not as bad as, you know, some vanity published science fiction or whatever, but at least that's bad in kind of an interesting way. I can't argue with you about the bad things. Well, there you go. But you're the least ordinary person I've ever met. You fucking liar. Our eyes held for a long moment. Mine searched hers as I tried to believe she could see something important enough to keep her here. It always felt like she was just about to slip away, to disappear like she was only a myth after all. But why? I didn't know how to phrase it. She tilted her head, waiting. I have to stop doing that. Last night, I stopped and shook my head. She frowned. Do you do that on purpose? The unfinished thought as a way to drive me mad. I don't know if I can explain it right. Please try. I took a deep breath. Okay. You're claiming I don't bore you and you aren't thinking of moving on to Jeremy anytime soon. She nodded, fighting a grin. But last night it was like... She was anxious now. The rest came out in a rush. Like you were already looking for a way to say goodbye. Perceptive, she whispered. And there was the anguish again, surfacing as she confirmed my worst fear. Her fingers ever so gently squeezed mine. Those two things are unrelated, though. Which two things? The depth of my feelings for you, and the necessity of leaving. Well, they are related, but inversely. The necessity of leaving. My stomach plunged. I don't understand. She stared into my eyes again, and hers burned, mesmerizing. Her voice was barely audible. The more I care about you, the more crucial it is that I find a way to keep you safe. From me. Leaving would be the right thing to do. I shook my head. No. She took a deep breath, and her eyes seemed to darken in an odd way. Well, I wasn't very good at leaving you alone when I tried. I don't know how to do it. Will you do me a favor? Stop trying to figure that one out. She half smiled. I suppose, given the frequency of your near-death experiences, it's actually safer for me to stay close. True story. You never know when another rogue van might attack. She frowned. You're still going to Seattle with me, right? Lots of vans in Seattle, waiting in ambush around literally every corner. Actually, I have a question for you on that subject. Did you really need to go to Seattle this Saturday, or was that just an excuse to get out of saying a definitive no to your bevy of admirers? That's what I thought. You know, you actually put me in kind of a difficult position with the whole thing in the parking lot with Taylor. You mean because you're taking her to prom now? My mouth fell open, and then I ground my teeth together. She was trying not to laugh now. Oh, Bo. I could tell there was more. What? She already has her dress. Edith is such a bitch. Poor Taylor. I had no words for that. She must have read the panic in my eyes. It could be worse. She actually bought it before she claimed you for the date. It was second-hand also, not a large investment. She couldn't pass up the deal. Yeah, okay, so Edith's a bitch, and she's also very patronizing to people who can't afford brand new expensive prom dresses for, you know, to be worn once and then hung up in a cupboard forever and moved from house to house. I still have mine from 7th form ball. 2003. It's somewhere. I still couldn't talk. She squeezed my hand again. You'll figure it out. I don't do dances, I said sadly. Oh, that is sad. If I'd asked you to the spring dance, would you have told me no? I looked at her long gold eyes and tried to imagine refusing her anything she wanted. Probably not, but I would have found a reason to cancel later. I would have broken my leg if I had to. She looked mystified. Why would you do that? I shook my head sadly. Sadly, again. You've never seen me in gym, I guess, but I would have thought you would understand. Are you referring to the fact that you can't walk across a flat, stable surface without finding something to trip over? Got it in one. I'm a very good teacher, Bo. I don't think coordination is a learnable skill. Okay, Edith, he's uncoordinated because he's a child. He's still growing. His body is changing in gross ways, and he doesn't quite know where his arms and legs are because he's a child. Jesus. Anyway, this is Maybelline Candy Wow cherry flavored lip balm. It's very nice. The colour doesn't last very long though. I'm not using it for the colour. I like the cherry lip balms. We're nearly there, I promise. She shook her head. Back to the question. Must you go to Seattle? Or would you mind if we did something different? As long as the we part was in, I didn't care about anything else. I'm open to alternatives, I allowed. But I do have another favour to ask. She looked wary, like she always did when I asked an open-ended question. What? Can I drive? She frowned. Why? Well, mostly because you're a terrifying driver, but also because I told Charlie I was going alone, and I don't want him to get curious. She rolled her eyes. Of all the things about me that could frighten you, you worry about my driving. She shook her head in disgust, but then her eyes were serious again. Won't you want to tell your father that you're spending the day with me? There was an undercurrent to her question that I didn't understand. With Charlie, less is always more. I was definite about that. Where are we going, anyway? Archie says the weather will be nice, so I'll be staying out of the public eye. And you can stay with me, if you'd like to. Again, she was leaving the choice up to me. And you'll show me what you meant about the sun, I asked, excited by the idea of solving another of the unknowns. Yeah, well, don't get excited, because it's going to suck. Yes, she smiled, then hesitated. But if you don't want to be alone with me, I'd still rather you didn't go to Seattle by yourself. I shudder to think of all the vans. As it happens, I don't mind being alone with you. I know, she sighed. You should tell Charlie, though. I shook my head at the thought of explaining my personal life to Charlie. Why on earth would I do that? Her eyes were suddenly fierce. To give me some small incentive to bring you back. I waited for her to relax. When she didn't, I said, I'll take my chances. Yeah, I remember reading that in Midnight Sun, Edward comes up with this plan really early on in the book, like the first day Bella arrives, to just, like, kidnap her and take her into the woods and kill her. And he's pretty settled on that for a little while. So I guess Edith was thinking the same thing. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. So that's settled. New topic? My attempt to change the subject didn't help much. What do you want to talk about? She asked through her teeth, still annoyed. I glanced around us, making sure we were well out of anyone's hearing. In the back corner, Archie was leaning forward, talking to Jessamine. Eleanor sat beside her, but Royal was gone. Why did you go to that Goat Rocks place last weekend? To hunt? Charlie said it wasn't a good place to hike because of bears. She stared at me as if I was missing something very obvious. Bears? I gasped. You should not hunt bears. Bears are people. Mankind is descended from bears. I mean, you should only hunt a bear in times of famine and necessity. And you should always hold a ceremony for the bear where you conjure up its spirit and explain to it that it died in an accident in the woods so it's not mad at you. And then keep the skull up in a tree so the bear can reincarnate more easily. Or you can take the bear home and marry it to your daughter, and then it's part of the family, and then you kill and eat it. Or maybe it's already dead, and then you marry it to your daughter. I can't remember, but there are rules for these things. You can't just go out and bite bears for no reason. I'm starting to think maybe vampires aren't very nice. She smirked. You know, bears are not in season, I added sternly to cover my shock. If you read carefully, the laws only cover hunting with weapons, she informed me. She watched my face with enjoyment as that slowly sank in. Bears, I repeated with difficulty. Grizzly is Eleanor's favourite. Her voice was still offhand, but her eyes were scrutinizing my reaction. I tried to pull myself together. I said, taking another bite of pizza as an excuse to look down. I chewed slowly, then swallowed. Fuck. So, I said after a moment, what's your favourite? She raised an eyebrow, and the corners of her mouth turned down like she didn't approve of my question. I don't know how to do that. Mountain lion. Sure, that makes sense. I nodded like she just said something totally normal. Of course, her tone mirrored mine, nothing out of the ordinary. We have to be careful not to impact the environment with injudicious hunting. We try to focus on areas with an overpopulation of predators, ranging as far away as we need. There are always plenty of deer and elk here, and they'll do, but where's the fun in that? Fun? I'm starting to think these vampires are just bear hunting dickheads. She smiled. So not fun, I murmured around another bite of pizza. Early spring is owls' favourite bear season. They're just coming out of hibernation, so they're more irritable. She smiled at some remembered joke. Nothing better than an irritated grizzly bear, I agreed, nodding. She laughed and shook her head. Tell me what you're really thinking, please. I'm trying to picture it, but I can't, I admitted. How do you hunt a bear without weapons? Oh, we have weapons. She flashed her bright teeth with a wide grin that wasn't really a smile. I don't know how to do that. Just not the kind they consider when writing hunting laws. If you've ever seen a bear attack on television, you should be able to visualize Eleanor hunting. I glanced across the cafeteria toward Eleanor, grateful that she wasn't looking my way. The long, smooth lines of muscle that ran down her arms and legs were suddenly much more than intimidating. I pictured her gripping under the edge of a mountain, then lifting. Edith followed my gaze and chuckled. I stared back at her, unnerved. Is it dangerous? I asked in a low voice. Do you ever get hurt? Her laughter pealed like a bell. Oh, Bo, about as dangerous as your slice. I looked at the pizza crust. Oh, he's down to the crust. He's down to the crust. And only 5 bites, I think, were detailed. Maybe 6. I looked at the pizza crust and said, yikes. So, are you like a bear attack? More like the lion, also they tell me, she said lightly. Perhaps our preferences are indicative. Perhaps, I repeated. I tried to smile, but my mind was struggling to fit the paradoxical images together, and failing. Is that something I might get to see? Never, she whispered. Her face turned even whiter than usual, and her eyes were suddenly horrified. She pulled her hand gently from mine and wrapped her arms tightly around her body. My hand lay there, empty on the table, numb from the cold. What did I say? I asked. Well, you want to watch your girlfriend murder a lion, actually. Yeah, fighting a lion would be really exciting. But not if you're way stronger than it. Then it's just silly. She closed her eyes for a moment, regaining control. When she met my stare at last, she looked angry. I almost wish it were possible. You don't seem to understand the realities present. It might be beneficial for you to see exactly how dangerous I really am. Okay, then why not? I pressed, trying to ignore her hard expression. She glared at me for a long minute. Later, she finally said. She was on her feet in one lithe movement. We're going to be late. I glanced around, startled to see that she was right, and the cafeteria was nearly vacant. When I was with her, the time and the place were such minor details that I completely lost track of both. I jumped up, grabbing our bags from the floor. Later then, I agreed. I wouldn't forget. The end of the chapter, thank fuck. And it's never detailed, surprisingly it's never detailed what the rest of the food on this tray was. Like, one slice of pizza did not cost $24. That's silly. What did they do with the rest of the food? I don't like food waste. My mum was a Protestant. Presbyterian, so. Anyway. Thank you for watching Twilight, brought to you by Painkillers. My throat is very sore. And that was an extremely boring chapter with a lot of talking. And not a lot of funny stuff happening. I don't know if anything's ever going to happen. I mean, I know it's supposed to mirror... it's supposed to be a version of Twilight, so I assume eventually the other vampires are going to find them, the baddies or whatever, and they'll go to the ballet studio or the kung fu studio, whatever they change it to, because Beau's a boy. Boys don't do ballet. But I kind of get the feeling in this book that that just won't happen, and they're just going to keep plodding through the entire year. I don't know. Anyway, much as I bitch and moan and complain about it, I really do enjoy making these videos for you guys, and it kind of feels like we're hanging out through time and space. So, if you want to press your hand to the camera there, we can high five. Good job. Good job, friends. Okay, thank you for joining me. See you later.